Liaison Officer with MALAYA, New York. I just want to say thank you, Asian American Unity Fest, for letting us share a bit about our organizing work. For those who are unfamiliar with MALAYA, we're an anti-fascist organization that fights for human rights, sovereignty, and democracy in the Philippines. As some of you may know, the Philippines is one of the worst places in Asia for land defenders and human activists to live. And 50% of Filipino families in the Philippines identify as poor. The Philippines is not truly independent and sovereign, whatever they tell you it's not. Why is that? For decades, peasant farmers and indigenous communities have been constantly threatened and murdered by the state for resisting forced displacement, labor exploitation, and environmental degradation. Shame! Shame! Yeah. The Armed Forces of the Philippines, which is funded by you-know-who, by the U.S. government, protects the interests of comprador landlords and mass corporations by murdering land defenders under the guise of anti-terrorism. Rather than investing in the needs of the Filipino people, bureaucrat capitalists who run the government only care about lining their pockets. Activists across the country are red tagged and labeled as communist terrorists for demanding accountability and justice from the government. Now we know fascist attacks take place under the guise of counterinsurgency. It was all too familiar here on occupied Turtle Island, right? We're witnessing the exacerbation of fascism here too. The scapegoating of migrants has led the violent arrest and detention of migrants around the country. Indigenous rights activists, land defenders in Atlanta, anti-ICE protesters, people who are against our tax dollars funding Israel's genocide in Palestine. In Venezuela, Sudan, Congo, Puerto Rico, Haiti, and in Iran. It's all interconnected. We're seeing the harm of U.S. imperialism in real time. And then, under President Ferdinand Marcos, we know, maybe some of y'all know about the labor export policy from 1974. Exporting human labor has not been just normalized, but institutionalized. Filipinos cannot survive or support their families by staying in the homeland. They're forced to migrate all over the world, often to be met by terrible working conditions, labor exploitation, and human trafficking. Through our Through our campaigns work, we organize to support the front lines, not just in the homeland, but also our kababayan here, our migrant workers here. And it's with a heavy heart to say tonight that just a couple of weeks ago, the Armed Forces of the Philippines terrorized the masses of Negros by displacing 650 civilians and killing 19 between Escalante City and Toboso through indiscriminate firings and aerial strafing. Our tax dollars funds that. Right. And as part of MALAYA USA's exposure trip in 2025, members of our org in New York, they actually went to Negros and integrated with farming communities in Cambancalan and Silay. They met with survivors there who faced that massacre. And in Negros, they saw firsthand the devastating effects of feudalism on the Philippines, in a country where 11% of landowners own half of the arable farmland. 9 out of 10 farmers do not own the land that they till at all. These landless farmers suffer intense abuse and exploitation from the big landlords and their accomplices in the government. Our community is heartbroken to learn that among the 19 killed are names familiar across the country in the Filipino diaspora. RJ Ledesma was a human rights activist and journalist that immersed within the countryside with members of MALAYA in October 2025. Lyle Prijoles from Washington, another victim, a Filipino-American activist, was also killed. He was immersing with the peasants of Negros this spring to learn from their struggle for the land. And we demand justice for Elisa Alano, Ero Wendell, and Maureen Santuyo. Just use activists dedicating their lives to fighting for the oppressed in Sapinas. As you know, there is also the NTF-ELCAC. There's a lot going on. The National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict in the Philippines. And since then, it has been used as an instrument to repress Filipino people, and they perform extrajudicial killings. This week, and we were trying to ramp up for the week of action because May Day was yesterday, but there's a lot going on. Tap into your local struggles. This week, the Marcos administration will be at the UN for 2 reasons. First, they have been invited to the International Migration Review Forum at the United Nations, where the Philippines' migration policies will be touted as the gold standard and serve as model for managing Filipino migration and economic development. Right? Filipino migrants know all too well that the labor expert policy has served only to separate families, expose Filipino migrants to exploitative and violent conditions, and have their hard-earned dollars heavily taxed to prop up a government that is deep in debt and overrun with corruption. Rather than address the root issues of poverty and violence, the Marcos government continues to sell out and betray its people. Second, the Marcos administration is vying for a seat on the UN Security Council. But this administration has made it clear it doesn't care about security, that would rather slaughter its own people with US tax dollars than provide true security and livelihood for the Filipino people. The UN continues to expose itself as a tool of neoliberalism and US imperialism by giving a platform to the fascist Marcos regime, passing counterinsurgency against People's Movement for Liberation Office Security. Am I doing good on time? Sorry. Okay, I'm almost set. All right, Malaya Movement alongside Bayan USA, the International Coalition for Human Rights in the Philippines, Migrante USA, the International League of People's Struggles, the International Migrants Alliance, the International Women's Alliance, the Defend Migrants Alliance, and many others are waging a week of action through May 8th, demanding an end to state terrorism against migrants around the world, demanding an end to U.S. wars of aggression, and to organize our vulnerable communities to fight for genuine liberation of our peoples. Join us at the Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza on East 47th and 2nd Ave on Monday, May 4th at 2 p.m. as we mobilize from the UN to the Philippine Consulate on 5th Ave.